Welcome to the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. That's RT Young. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you have not done so yet, go ahead and subscribe to Inside Texas. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code up there by Hook'em's head. Sign up for just $1. Get the best Texas Longhorns insight, the best analysis, best scoop. Lots of stuff happening today. Obviously, we're going to hit a little bit of a different topic, but you're not going to miss anything over on Inside Texas if you sign up just for $1. And today, RT, we're going to hit something. Usually the reheat goes over stuff from the most recent game or something happened over the course of the weekend. Not something you touched on this past weekend. In fact, you looked at a little bit of a retrospective of Steve Sarkisian's time. 5 seasons now in Austin, and you went through the Mount Rushmore of players who have suited up for Sarkisian and Sarkisian alone.
So I wrote this Mount Rushmore article. I did a series on it, all through the off season. Wasn't ready really yet, Joe, to write a Mount Rushmore article in mid-December of 2025, but it speaks to the fact that the Longhorns are prepping for a bowl and not prepping for the college football playoffs. So that is what it is, but I had to draw the line somewhere. And when I was thinking about who are the four faces etched on the fictional cliff that is Steve Sarkisian's Mount Rushmore during his 5 years at Texas, I had to come up with some criteria. As Omar in The Wire says, a man's got to have a code, or we could go with the Walter quote from The Big Lebowski: "This isn't Nam, there are rules." I really said that inclusion requires they had to play for Sark and Sark alone. And with that, unfortunately, came some casualties. Guys who would be on Mount Rushmores of best running backs ever at Texas. Like I'd put Bijan Robinson on there, or on the DBU Mount Rushmore, I'd include Jahdae Barron. T'Vondre Sweat, I think he definitely has an argument to be on there for defensive tackle with some other guys from back in the day. That would be one where we might need the old heads on Inside Texas to chime in a little bit more. But I had to exclude those guys, which was tough because, man, those are some of my favorite players of all time. But also wanted to include, a Mount Rushmore that I think tells the story so far of Steve Sarkisian's time at Texas. So the first player he had on there, this isn't ranked in how good that they are, but what would you think about this first inclusion, Joe? You can scroll down and show the people.
Yeah, I'm glad you started off with Xavier Worthy because you're going to include some guys from the 2021 class who are in here, or I'm pretty sure. And Worthy was in that, but Worthy was the first, and Ian and you talk about this all the time. He was the first to sign up to play for Steve Sarkisian. And that happened after getting out of his letter of intent with Michigan in the spring of 2021. All the guys that were in that class, and including maybe some other guys who are on the made it or just missed list, signed up to play for Tom Herman, or most of them did. They signed during the early signing period. They go through the Alamo Bowl. And then as the Urban Meyer pursuit fizzles out, Texas cans Herman on January 2nd, 2021, and hires Steve Sarkisian officially hours later to fill that role. And Sark gets to work with a lot of those guys in the class, but Worthy was different just because of the fact that, got out of his LOI. Sarkisian leveraged a relationship he had with him when he was back at Alabama, leveraged the offense, leveraged a feature role. And we got to see Worthy take advantage of it right away during his freshman season in 2021.
Yeah, and it's funny that I wrote this past weekend just because just a couple of days before, one of my good buddies and I were at lunch at Matt's El Rancho in Austin, and we were, talking Longhorn football as we often do and reminiscing as we're prone to do. And we were talking about the 2021 season. And we both made the comment, can you imagine how dark that season, Steve Sarkisian's first year in Austin, would have been without Xavier Worthy? I mean, they were 5-7 already, but at least you still had bright spots that foreshadowed the future of what he was going to bring to Austin into the 40 acres. You had that first touchdown, the first play of the game in the Red River Shootout, and Worthy's performance that year against a vast superior Lincoln Riley Oklahoma team. You had Worthy's monster year, but it was really Bijan Robinson, Worthy, and a little bit of Roshan Johnson, and no one else, and hardly anyone else on the whole team. I mean, you had DeMarvion Overshown occasionally on defense, but man, that season was bleak. If it had fallen to 4-8, it would have been bleaker. But people forget, like you said, that it didn't originally have Xavier Worthy signed up to come to Austin even. So if you can imagine a offense without him that year, I don't know if the program really recovers, because it needed that last win of the season to get to 5-7. It needed those bright spots against OU, against Baylor, against Oklahoma State that really showcase, like, hey, this might not all be here just yet in terms of results and in terms of the win-loss column, but it's coming. Just, trust the process. And I think Worthy was really the proof of concept of that. Obviously, you had to have guys who were already there, like Bijan, like Roshan, who bought in. But Worthy was really, like you said, the first guy who signed up for Steve Sarkisian ball and put that proof of concept on the field.
2,755 yards, 26 touchdowns. Even had, I think he had a couple of passing attempts. Obviously, great as a kick returner as well. Just someone who, made the most of his opportunity at Texas, helped Texas win the Big 12 championship, helped Texas make the college football playoff, and just overall, for a program that throughout its history, and a little bit has to do with the offense that Texas utilized throughout its greatest years, not really a whole lot as far as all-star receivers go, really became one of the first ones in, quite a long time for Texas, and on his way into the first round. You keep going from the skill positions into the trenches, and you know what? I think there's some arguments that this guy could have been number one if you did put it in order. But yeah, Kelvin Banks, maybe the best offensive lineman in school history. I know there's a lot of arguments around there, but undoubtedly one of the four essential players of the Steve Sarkisian era.
This is a commitment that I still remember where I was when Texas got it. And, I was with a couple other passionate Longhorn fans on a hunting trip, and we just lost our minds, because you really felt that this was almost the Worthy equivalent of the offensive line. This was a type of recruit that hadn't signed up to play for Texas in a really long time. And Steve Sarkisian, he saw in that Arkansas game in 2021, gosh, Texas has got to get bigger. They've got to get more physical. They've got to get nastier on the line of scrimmage. And Kelvin Banks brought that in spades his 3 years in Austin. And I talk about it in the article, but the signature Kelvin Banks trademark to me is just every time he was paired up against a first-round defender on the other end, whether it was Will McDonald, whether it was that Kansas State player who snubbed Jalen Ford for the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year award, whether it was Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, Kelvin Banks dominated. I mean, he just has a litany of body bags to his name while he was on the 40 acres. And he was the most ready-made offensive lineman in school history. I don't think you'll ever see another one who he wasn't even an early enrollee, Joe. I think that's one thing that's so crazy and most people forget. But he stepped on a campus really ready to dominate the Big 12. Did it also, and he did it all throughout his 3 years on campus. And I mean, he's so important because do you get the Quinn Ewers transfer? Do you get the Arch Manning commitment if you don't get Kelvin Banks, which leads to DJ Campbell, which leads to an influx of offensive line recruits? I'm not sure, but I think that this was really the one that started the tidal wave of recruiting momentum for Steve Sarkisian at Texas.
Unanimous All-American, Outland Trophy, Lombardi Award, SEC Offensive Lineman of the Year, I believe. He may have had to split that one, first round pick, just so many different honors, and obviously just a great person on and off the field. Just a player that you just can't take for granted. And you almost could every now and then, just because you knew he was going to give you that great play. You could kind of just think, okay, you know what, left tackle kind of taken care of, and everything's going to be all right, even against the Dallas Turners and Will Andersons and McDonald's and what is it, Felix and Aduke? I forget the full name, but I know who you're talking about, that Kansas State linebacker. Just so many, or edge rusher, just so many different players. And I remember even, I think it was like either a Falcons like fan account or maybe the Falcons account, because the only thing that I've found in the NFL that replicates rivalries in college is the NFC South. And I think it was either a Jalen Walker or Michael Williams clip, whoever went to the Falcons. And it's like, oh, you're gonna get this for the next, twice a year for the next however many years, Kelvin Banks. And it was Kelvin Banks winning the rep. Unfortunately, it was Quinn Ewers who was the one that kind of messed the whole thing up. But it's Kelvin Banks having to block for several seconds against one of those two players and holding his own. And I think, that's just a small piece. As you can see, Nash's tweet on the screen has had a great first season for a Saints team without a whole lot of direction. But just someone who lived up to every single bit throughout his time at Texas. We'll keep on going and see, of course, the inclusion that had to be made. That is Quinn Ewers. He did not sign with Texas out of high school. Obviously, everybody knows that story. Enrolled early at Ohio State after one season in Columbus, backing up guys like CJ Stroud and even a couple others, some big-time quarterbacks up there. Transfers back home to Texas. TCU and Texas Tech were interested in him. I think the Aggies were also interested as well. But Texas did everything right to get Ewers back into the fold. And a lot of blame and a lot of criticism went toward Ewers throughout his career. But some of the best moments for Texas football in this century were made thanks to Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers won a conference championship MVP. He beat Texas A&M in the renewal of the rivalry. 2 out of 3 Red Rivers. Multiple college football playoff wins, college football semifinal trips. So I think more than anything with Quinn Ewers, he was the quarterback that took Texas back to heights that it hadn't achieved since Colt McCoy and Vince Young. And even though I would personally put someone like Sam Ehlinger, who maybe didn't have the supporting cast or the coach around him that Quinn Ewers did, Sam Ehlinger still wasn't able to achieve those heights. And I think that's one thing Texas fans at this point should be nothing but grateful for Quinn Ewers. It's not the time anymore to really debate about, what he could have been or what he wasn't. Quinn Ewers was a great quarterback for Texas. And without his commitment to transfer and end up where he always belonged and always wanted to be, which was Austin, Texas, I don't know again what the Steve Sarkisian era looks like, because they would have had to go get some maybe unproven transfer, and who knows how that turns out. I don't think you get a conference championship, and I don't think you achieve the heights so quickly that Quinn Ewers was able to do. I totally forgot. Obviously, the legendary win at Alabama. That's maybe the number one moment that people think of when they think of Ewers. So, man, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks ever at Texas. Had some great ones, even with the walking through the desert period. Texas fans who are around our age, Joe, and born in the 90s, we've seen some fun ones come through. So I think Texas fans should be nothing but grateful for yours. I did caveat only include players that have finished their tenure with Steve Sarkisian up until this point. So it's no besmirching of Quinn. Never say a negative thing about him. He's solid burnt orange running through his veins in my book. But we could maybe update this list in a year from now if a certain quarterback at Texas who has great hair and famous uncles, as yours once said in a Dr. Pepper commercial, is able to achieve higher heights than even yours was able to do. And hopefully that's a story I have to write this time maybe this time in late next January.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
Sarkisian always called Ewers a steady C, and I think that was a very apt description, because not only, you know, all the hype and the expectations that were levied on him, but then all the hype surrounding, like you said, his backup quarterback that he always joked about in those Fansville commercials with Arch Manning. He handled that. Arch has even joked about that, saying, like, I'm sure it was terrible having me as a backup quarterback, but Quinn handled it well. No matter, I mean, he went from number 1 overall prospect and top portal prospect to the 7th round. I think everybody knows that. And I'm sure Quinn would be the first to tell you, and Sark right after him, that he wishes that there was a little bit more, an earlier draft pick.
That's still absurd, though. I mean, Curtis Rourke and some of the people who went before him, there's still no excuse for that. And I don't think, because of Quinn Ewers' injury history, and not to totally, unbox this again, but I don't think that he necessarily was deserving of a first round pick or even in the first 2 days. But come on, I mean, he's already won the backup job in Miami, and he's showed that the talent is there, and what Ewers always needed was health, and he just needed some good luck to come his way. And I still think he's going to have a long career in the NFL. Does that mean he's a Pro Bowler or All Pro? No, probably not. But I still think he's going to be a long-time NFL quarterback.
Someone who's etched his name into the Texas record books, and there you see it on the screen. I don't think I can play it because of copyright problems, but literally the most important play for Texas football in over a decade, maybe even longer, that 4th and 13 pass to Matthew Golden to keep Texas alive in the college football playoff. One of the signature plays, not just of the Steve Sarkisian era, but of the Texas football era. And you list his stats: 91, 28 yards, 68 touchdown passes, 27-9 as a starter. Just someone who has been a great representative for the program, and a warrior too. And yeah, he missed some games, but he played in some games where he was hurt. And I think it came at an odd time, and it was the time when he declared for the NFL draft and didn't enter the portal and didn't come back for another season. But that turned into a great Quinn Ewers Appreciation Day. And I think for all the criticism and the fine-tooth comb that everybody wanted to go through his game with, he did so much that's worthy of this type of accolade and, respect from Texas fans. And then last on your Mount Rushmore, we finally get someone on the defense. That is Anthony Hill, who in the course of his 3 years at Texas, man, you saw so much game-changing play from number 0.
Yeah, let's talk about the first 2 out first, Joe, because I had to include a defender, and it was tough to figure out which one of these 3 between Anthony Hill, Byron Murphy, and Michael Taft. Byron Murphy, he's a little bit of what we were talking about earlier. He committed to Tom Herman, so I think he would have been in Austin regardless. Obviously, he was an incredible player. He's maybe more overshadowed a little bit by Sweat because they were such a tandem. But Murphy, that stop of Kansas State to win the game at the goal line in 2023, he had his own legendary moments. Michael Taft, who we're just now saying farewell to, obviously is an all-time fan favorite and great Longhorn. And it was really tough to make the call between Taft and Hill at the end of the day. But ultimately, why I think I went with Hill is because if you look at Hill's all-time standing within the linebacker position at Texas, I think you clearly have a 1A and 1B in Derek Johnson and Tommy Nobis. There's no arguing about that. I don't know if anyone will ever even enter that stratosphere. It would be amazing if somebody does. And then you have almost like a 3A and 3B between Britt Hager, who was in a different generation of playing linebacker, and Anthony Hill, 3B, who almost is the perfect modern day inside backer who can, give that interior pressure, litany of sacks during his time in Austin, burst onto the scene with those 2 takedowns of Jalen Milroe while he was just a young pup in Tuscaloosa in 2023. But I think if you look at where Michael Taft ranks on the all-time list of safeties at Texas, I think he's further down the list. And that's not really a knock on Michael Taft. It's just goes to show how many amazing safeties have come through Austin, because we're DBU for a reason, so I think that's part of it. And I maybe it was just a little misty-eyed thinking about Hills before or it was just after he announced his intentions to leave. And I hate that he didn't get to play in that last game against A&M, but man, he had some legendary moments in his own right. All-American, multi-time first team, regardless of what conference he played, freshman All-American, didn't get those individual awards that he maybe could have if he had stayed healthy this year, but he'll always be remembered on that pantheon of linebackers at Texas. And we keep talking about this, but an important recruit in his own right. He was almost like the Kelvin Banks of the defense, getting a signature like that. Not a clean flip, but was committed to A&M at one time, and really was. You had Arch Manning in the summer, and then shortly after that November game against TCU in 2022, Hill committed. So just as an important recruit as Arch Manning and Kelvin Banks, Quinn Ewers, all those guys were.
Xavier Worthy signed with Michigan, ends up a Longhorn great. Kelvin Banks, an Oregon commit, flips, ends up a Longhorn great. Quinn Ewers started his career at Ohio State, ends up a Longhorn great. Anthony Hill was a Texas A&M commit, and then once the Jimbo Fisher era started collapsing, flips to Texas. And then even Byron Murphy, pretty sure he was once committed to Baylor for a little while. And I think Michael Taft, before the Texas walk-on opportunity presented itself, he was going to walk on at Rice. Like, these are all guys at Texas, in a different timeline, they weren't going to be Longhorns. And now here we are talking about them as some of the best to ever wear the burnt orange. So I couldn't think of anything to really disagree with on your list. And I think you said it the right way. And, hopefully we're having to update this pretty regularly throughout the Steve Sarkisian era.
What I was going to say, Joe, is maybe Michael Taft should have given us a little bit more drama. He was just such a diehard Longhorn from a young age. I guess Quinn Ewers was too, but maybe that's what was the one thing that was missing in Michael Taft's resume was, give us a little bit more drama. If there had been a childhood picture and I won't even say it, but a rival's jersey or something where there was a little more tension. But come on, we always knew Michael Taft wanted to be a Longhorn, was a legend once he became a Longhorn, and will continue to represent the brand as he goes on to do great things in the NFL and afterwards.
Always great talking about Longhorn history. We're talking Longhorn history, present and future here on the Inside Texas YouTube channel. So make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And of course, we'll always be doing the same over on InsideTexas.com. So sign up for just $1. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code there at the top left of the screen. Come join the conversation over on Inside Texas. We have so much to talk about here as the prep for the Citrus Bowl continues. Portal, coaching changes, so many different things happening over at Inside Texas. We got you covered, so come join us for just $1. RT, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.